Glad to have everybody together today. Dennis said we can join you for brunch, but you have to have a lesson. So, because he doesn't want the Foundations of Faith to get off your schedule. So I understand. So we will have a relatively short lesson. Let me say, if you haven't gone to church, try to slip out a little early. I'm not going to hold you here so long. And stop by the gallery to say goodbye to Tiffany. She's not really leaving. She's still going to be here among us, but she is officially retiring as our care minister today. We'll recognize her in the late service, as we did in the early service. Okay. Today's lesson is about the call of Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Okay? As we start our lesson today, a new king arises in Egypt who did not know Joseph, and the Egyptians began to enslave the Israelites. There's even a little genocide going on here with Pharaoh fighting with the midwives to kill the boy Israelites as they're born, but both the midwives and the Israelite mothers managed to conspire around where they didn't get very many little boys. Into that situation, Moses is born, and through some creative thinking by his mother and sister, he ends up being raised in Pharaoh's house. Okay? Old story for us, we all know fairly well. Moses sees an Egyptian feeding an Israelite, and he takes care of it, and ends up killing the Egyptian. Thought he hadn't been seen. Oops, though, a little while later, somebody pops up and intervenes between a couple of Israelites fighting and says, "Well, you can do to us what you did to the Egyptian?" So he goes, "Uh-oh," and he leaves town. And he ends up in Sinai, tending to the flocks. Okay? Someone read for us Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 through 25. Anybody have a Bible? Who knows about her Bible? That's okay.
How fine is it the kitchen time?
Actually, that's the part we've already kind of covered. That's okay. Keep it there. Keep it there. Because you can slide forward.
What verses, Charles?
It was
23 through 20.
23 to 25.
What
Just
chapter?
go ahead. Chapter 2. Go ahead and read it.
Okay. During those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew.
Okay. So that gets us to where I was. And in chapter 3, we catch up with Moses in his new life outside of Egypt. Moses is tending sheep when he spots what? Burning bush. A bush that's on fire but is not consumed, out in the desert. So somebody read for us Exodus 3, verses 4 through 6.
God saw that he had stopped to look. God called to him from out of the bush. "Moses, Moses." He said, "Yes, I'm right here." God said, "Don't come any closer. Remove your sandals from your feet. You are standing on holy ground." Tell when?
6.
Then he said, "I'm the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." Moses hid his face, afraid to look at God.
Okay. So when Moses sees the burning bush, he has an encounter. He hears God calling him. And what is Moses' reaction to his encounter with God? Do you remember?
Takes off his sandals.
Takes off his sandals, yeah.
Because he's standing on holy ground.
But then what does he do?
Yeah.
Hide his face, yeah.
I didn't get what they said, what did he say?
Hides his
He hid his
face.
face, okay.
The actual response is recorded in chapter 3, verses 13 through 15. But Moses said to God, if I come to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. He said further, thus you shall say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, thus you shall say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this my title for all generations. Because you've got Moses out here with a burning bush, and God tells him he's going to send him to Pharaoh. And Moses' response is, what? Yeah, pick somebody else.
Not me.
That's exactly what he starts just a series of questions. The first being, well, if I go there and they ask me who sent me, how do I know God sent me? What do I tell them your name is? And so God says, here, this is my name. I am who I am. Think about that name. I am who I am. What does that tell you about God?
Just exists.
He exists. Does he just exist? No.
Can't be defined.
Yeah.
Can't be contained really into a specific thing or
Yeah.
title.
And he's always the same.
And he's always the same. I am who I am.
Seems like usually when you think about relationships, we're defining ourselves and other people in terms of their relations to other people still. But that, God doesn't do that. God is the subject, not an object in a sense. Where he's always the focal point, and it
Yeah.
starts with him.
And he's also the object.
True. Alpha and Omega.
That's the interesting thing.
No matter how complex he is in building the world and making the world, he brings it down to this simple little,
I am.
And the tense on that is a little bit unusual too, when they say it can also be translated as I will be who I will be. And so it's got both present context and the future context.
You think about that. I am who I will be. Or I be who I will be.
Or I will be who I am.
Yeah. You get yourself pretty confused.
I think God would get the point across.
The reality is that that's God. You can't define God. You can't put God in a box. God is a being that you relate to. And it's in relating that God works in us and through us. It's hard to wrap your mind around this, but that's what it's like. Now that Moses knows God's name, how does he respond to the call to go back to Egypt?
He says he doesn't speak well enough to go to
Yeah. More questions. He's got God's name. He knows God wants him to go to Egypt to help get the Israelites out. And all he has is more questions. Chapter 4 of Exodus, listen to these words. Then Moses answered, but suppose they do not believe me or listen to me, but say, the Lord did not appear to you. The Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? He said, a staff. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw the staff on the ground, and it became a snake, and Moses drew back from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, reach out your hand and seize it by the tail. So he reached out his hand and grasped it, and it became a staff in his hand. So that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, and the God of Isaac, has appeared to you. Again the Lord said to him, put your hand inside your cloak. He put his hand into his cloak. And when he took it out, his hand was leprous, as white as snow. Then God said, put your hand back into your cloak. So he put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his body. If they will not believe you or heed the first sign, they may believe the second sign. If they will not believe even these two signs or heed you, you shall take some water from the Nile, pour it on dry ground, and the water that you shall take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground. But Moses said to the Lord, O my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now, that you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And the Lord said to him, who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them deaf or mute, seeing or I love onion skin. Blind. Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak. But he said, oh my Lord, please send someone else. Moses does not want to go. And so God says, fine, what of your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know that he can speak fluently. Even now he is coming to meet you, and when he sees you, his heart will be glad. You shall speak to him and put the words into his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. God calls Moses to go. He gives him God's name. He gives him 3 signs. Still says he can't do it. And so God says, fine, we'll let your brother speak it for you. But you have to give your brother the words. You're not getting out of this completely. And so there we are. What do you think of Moses' response to God's call?
I think this is the example of the first spokesperson training in the Bible. In the line of public relations, Janelle knows, people always say, well, I don't do that. I don't talk like that. I don't speak to people. So they ask the spokesperson to do it. But the spokesperson's only as good as the subject matter expert. So Aaron is only going to be as good as what Moses translates from what God told him. So God's still saying, you, the subject matter expert, the person I talk to one-on-one, you are responsible for making sure he gets the point across.
So what do you think about this?
I think it's the first time that we get to negotiate with God, because it happens further in the Bible. And because we've all negotiated with God. Oh, God, no. I mean, when Donna and Rob gave their little testimony, she kept saying, God's calling me to be a missionary. And he said, isn't that right? I mean, and y'all said, good, but, you know. I mean, we all negotiate with God. You know, like, I want this, I'll do this if you do this over here, because I really, really want this. You know.
Okay. Any of the rest of you negotiate with God?
Yes. Please tell me I'm not the only one this class.
Just a vast difference between our little understanding and limitations of who we are and what we think we are and how we can even function, and God's understanding of who He thinks we are and how He thinks we can function. That, to me, is mind-boggling. And the scary thing is just the gap of getting past the fear to say, all right, you're telling me I can do this, and you're gonna give me this to do, and I'm supposed to do it. To say no, I thought Moses was quite brave. For me, it would probably have been, you know, an overwhelming, but meek, okay, you know, and then I would have been floundering, trying to figure out my way to do it.
Step back from this whole thing
Yeah.
and look at it objectively. If you take yourself out of it, then what's wrong with those people? Why would they not do what God asked them to do?
Yeah.
And that would probably be our reaction most of the time when we heard that somebody was being called by God to do something and wasn't doing it. We said, what is wrong with them? But when the shoe is on our foot,
That's right.
and we're the one God is speaking to about doing something, whatever it might be, suddenly it's not nearly so crystal clear.
It always seems so clear when you're hearing somebody else's story. And the Moses story, it seems like, you know, with the burning bush and the staff and all that, he's got so many signs, why would he ever question that? But I think when you're looking at yourself, somebody else may look at me and say, those signs seem pretty clear, why is Paul ignoring that? But to your point, when the shoe's on your foot, the signs look, you can make the signs feel fuzzier.
Oh, yeah. Or you can just choose to ignore them.
Right.
Moses was,
Yeah.
they were pretty clear signs.
Yeah, I don't see a burning bush, I must be good.
Not necessarily, Paul.
Well, and I think it's easy to, even if you know, to say, I know this is what God is calling me to do, but I am so afraid of doing it, so afraid of messing it up, or just so afraid of antagonizing other people, or making myself look stupid, or whatever, that even though you know, it is clear in my mind what I'm supposed to do, I'm still hesitating for that, for all those other reasons, instead of just saying, like Nikki was saying, if I know God gave me this, and God will enable me to do it, because He has given it to me, and He's called me to do it. But it's very hard, lots of times, to do it, whatever the it is.
You know, when Lee talked about procrastinating, and I'm so with her, I mean, I'm a real strong O'Hara, I won't think about that right now, I'll think about that tomorrow. And so even though we accept that God wants us to do something, He wants it on His time, and we're still hanging on our own calendar like, yeah, I will so do another day, but not just.
Just not today, God.
When I get all my chores done, you know, my to-dos done.
I think his first reactions were appropriate, all in fear. He's had an encounter with God Almighty, and that's appropriate. I mean, you don't just take that as an everyday thing.
No, you don't.
It was awestruck, and he was fearful, and he should have been.
We can cut him some slack. Yes, he should have been. But after the length of this dialogue, you would think, what's wrong with you, Moses? Come on. Can't get any clearer than this. He's doing everything but kick you in the rear end and push you over down the road. But that's exactly how we are. And I don't think many of us are called to go to Egypt and free the Israelites. But we are called by God to do things in our lives. Yet I certainly know from my life, this story rings true. There's lots of times I don't want to do whatever it is that God is telling me God wants me to do. From an objective standing outside looking in, we can all say, this is a no-brainer, go do it. Living it, being us, the ones having to do whatever it is a somewhat different story. And we should all empathize with Moses, not just criticize him. We should empathize with him because there goes us. What should our takeaway from this account of Moses' call be? What do you think? What should we learn from this today?
Have an open mind.
An open mind?
Keep Aaron close at hand.
Yeah, if you got an errand, keep it close at hand, that's the point.
God is going to have his way.
Well, I think to trust God when you don't think you have the ability to do what he's asking you to do, trust God that he will give you the power and the ability to do what he's asked you to do.
That's right.
God wants relationship. He wants us. He pursues us.
He's not going to send, God's not going to send you where you're just going to be hurt.
Just the idea though that he wants to, he's not asking a rock to do that. He wants us.
Yeah.
He wants us. I love the pursuit.
Don't be too quick to judge other folks' inadequacies. It's very easy to be judgmental.
That's good too.
I think also to voice your concerns to God, you know, when you feel, when God didn't strike him down, or anything for raising his questions, he just had an answer for every one of his questions. So, that's.
He would have lost me at picking up a snake.
Yeah,
me
so
too.
that you
Me
can go
too.
and act, but let God answer those questions.
The lesson is not, quit talking to God so you won't get called to do something you don't. It is,
I was just gonna say, it also makes me think that sometimes he will have us work with someone else. A fellow believer who maybe is better at this than I am, but I can contribute this.
Right.
I think one of the key takeaways from this story that we sometimes miss is the fact that God will provide for our response to whatever it is God is calling us to do. It may not look like the resource is there for you, but it is there. God does not ask us to do things that we can't do. He doesn't ask us to do things that we don't have the ability to do, capabilities to do. It may stretch us. It may not be comfortable, but God will provide. I don't know if he's going to give you the ability to put your hand inside your coat, pull it out and be leprous and be blind, those kinds of things, but God will provide.
I think, Charles, that it gives me comfort that even though Moses was flawed, he'd kill someone. God could have chosen someone who did not kill someone to do this. But he still, even with his flaws, God chose Moses. And Moses said yes, eventually.
Eventually, yeah. Eventually he did. And he went on, and that's the rest of the story for a future week. Trying to keep this short so you all can do some more visiting, so we'll leave it at there. But remember, listen for God's call. Don't run from it. And remember that God will provide for the resources you need to meet that call. Never lose sight of that. God will provide. It's important. And he will.
You know, Charlie, what I take out this lesson, as well as my own life, I am just instrument of God. Like this coffee cup, I don't fill up that thing. It's God fill up. It's God to, you are just an instrument, a speaker, a loudspeaker, maybe, like God use you, you are express His power, His energy, His love. Because, you know, that last time, sometimes we see some situation, we try and love somebody. I really don't have that kind of love for that thing myself. But God has. So we are not just run the show. We don't run the show. We don't run the church. God's one we honor. I told Paul here, and I'm the worst one to be teaching Sunday school because I really don't have that kind of gift. But I can make coffee. I can do, I can move the chair. In fact, for 30 years, that's what I do for the church. That's what I do for the church. I didn't have that thing to do things. But I can be the instrument, a small potato, so to speak, to play in the great kingdom of God. Like some of the people with a gift, Charlie like yourself, Judy like yourself, you do. And to serve God in your own gift way. You know what I mean?
You got it. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Do visit some more. I'll shush up now and sit down. And some of us need to go to the choir really quick.